Action figure reboots. Sponsored by Pearson Art.
Hello, and welcome back. In this episode, we're looking at a Mego Aquaman. It was released in 1972. He was part of the first four that were released under the world's greatest superhero line, which also included Batman, Robin, and Superman. Now, it may seem like an odd choice to include him, but in 1972, that wasn't the case. Today is kind of a punchline in Family Guy cartoons. I'm not talking about the movies, I'm talking about Aquaman proper. It, Today he's kind of a guilty pleasure, to say you're a fan. But in 1972, he was a player. He was an original member of the Justice League. He had his own comic title going back to the 1950s and still continues to today. Not to mention, he was the backup stories for Batman and Superman comics going back to when he first debuted in 1941. He was a featured player in the Filmation cartoons from the 1960s, which were later repackaged as the Superman Aquaman Hour of Adventure. That's the one I used to watch. They used to show that before school. Good times. In the sticker sets that they sold at the time, he was always right there. He's front and center in this set. When Super Friends debuted in the fall of 1973, Aquaman was right there. When characters like Green Arrow, The Flash, or Plastic Man appeared in any episodes, they were just guests at the Hall of Justice. Aquaman had a seat at the table. So, yeah, he was a player and the most obvious choice. But when it came to the figure itself, it left a little bit to be desired. He had all the accoutrements. He had the right color suit. He had the green oven mitt gloves. He had the belt with the A buckle. But the head sculpt just always killed it for me. The sculpt itself isn't bad. I mean, the face is fine. It's a little on the small side, and I never really understood the pointed ears. But I never got the whole thing with the hair. I mean, I don't really know what the sculptor was going for with that. If you look at the original packaging, it's a really good design. I just never understood how you go from this to this. I don't know. I just can't square that circle. So for today's reboot, we're going to keep the costume, not the oven mitt gloves, the suit, but we're going to need a new head. And for that, I'm going to use what I think Mego should have always used, the head from the Superman figure. Now, I realize that at the time they probably didn't want to have their first four figures have two of the same heads. But I don't know. The head that they used for Superman, I think, could have been repurposed. It could have had hair resculpted, could have made little changes to it that I don't think most people would have even noticed. So I picked up one off of eBay. It was loose, it was a good price, and this will be the base. So after I cleaned it up, I took the head and I modified it just a little bit, and this is what I came up with. I like the way this came out. It's amazing how a different hair color and eyebrows that are a little thicker can give it a whole new look. Once that was done, I popped out the hands and added these adapters to accommodate these molded gloves. I got these from CTVT Toys. I'll put a link in the description. They're Batman gloves, but they're made in green. They make them in all different colors. I don't really like to use them for Batman because the wings, I think, get in the way of the cape. But for Aquaman, I think this works. For the suit, I picked up an Aquaman 50th anniversary reproduction figure. This is good. I didn't really want to use an original suit for this. Leave them for the collectors. This is for people who just like to play around. I took the belt off because, oddly enough, I was looking on eBay at Aquaman figures, and there was this one that it was definitely from the 70s. It wasn't a reproduction or anything. And he had the regular Mego belt on it, but then he also had a belt from this figure. This is a figure from the 90s. It was made by Hasbro. It was part of a set. I always thought the belt looked a little bit small on that figure. And when I saw it on the Mego, it was too wide, but it definitely looked in scale. So I picked up one of these. It was a beater. I just got it for the belt to try it out, but it worked. Going back to the Filmation cartoons that I mentioned earlier, I like that they added black boots to the costume. So I'm going to add a pair of black boots to mine and a trident that I'm going to paint gold, but just the top part. I thought I was done here as far as the parts went, but there was one other thing I think it needed. This is a Sir Lancelot that Mego had made for their King Arthur and the Knights line. The armor that he's wearing on his chest, I actually picked up one of those. It was a reproduction, and I had gotten it for something, and it didn't work out, and I had it, and so I actually did modify it a little bit, and I think it's perfect for this piece. So, with that being said, we got all the parts. Let's put it together and see what we got. All right, this is it. Arthur Curry, the Aquaman. Now, I guess I could have went with something a little more like Jason Momoa with the long hair and the beard, but I wanted something more traditional. You know, something I grew up with. I like the way the belt looks. I actually painted that A in the front gold, and I like the way the shoulder armor looks. I was actually glad I had that piece. You can't get them anymore, and I was glad I got that one because the shoulder pieces look kind of like clams, somewhat. Yeah, the reason I only painted the top of the trident is because to get the pole through, I actually had to drill a hole into his fist glove because it's actually solid. So I know that if I tried to slide it through, the paint would have got rubbed right off. So that's why I kept it like that. And I like the black boots. I I think he truly looks like the king of Atlantis. So I guess that about wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit the like button, subscribe, share, comment. I'd love to hear from you. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, always remember and never forget, think outside the box.